Ready.
So you were invited. Can you just give me the background on how Paula White ended up in Port Huron?
So we invited, excuse me, Pastor Paula White to come to our church, and she can still preach and minister in her personal capacity. So we invited this woman of God to come and share in our church, and she came. She committed to that, and then also she said she would give some time to share some of the information about what she does in DC.
Okay, who's we? You said we invited her.
Meaning, I invited her.
Okay.
Our church.
The church.
Yes,
Okay,
us,
that's what.
Faith Church. We invited her. We did the legwork to make sure that she was here, and then after that, I looked at certain individuals in our community that I thought would be good to welcome her. Now, mind you, they didn't. No one gave me a endorsement, but there were a few that did welcome her. We had Kevin Watkins, who was NAACP president. He was here in the meeting. Jeff Pemberton, he was here in the meeting, and he even did a video welcoming her. And again, they were kind enough to do that for us.
Okay, because I think that's part of where the backlash is, and this isn't just my thing. It's what I've heard from a town hall and a couple of letters I was given copies of from other Port Huron residents. That his wording for like his welcome video was, where is it? He put in his Facebook announcement, "Hi, I am Port Huron Council Member and Pastor Jeff Pemberton, and on behalf of the city of Port Huron." So, looking at it, it almost sounds like he is the only council member. So it kind of be seen two different ways. It made it sound like he's the council member versus he's one of six, and he's welcoming her on behalf of all the residents of Port Huron. So that's part of what I keep hearing from. Why did he say it like this? What gives him the right to speak for all of us? And what gives him that right within the capacity of the council to make himself seem like he's like higher than the other ones?
I hear that.
Okay.
I would say to you, and my request of him doing, because I requested him to do it, is that we would have somebody in our city government that would welcome her. And I believe that we have done a lot of work in our community to be welcoming to all people. And I think that if it was a Pastor Paula White who has a particular set of views, or any other individual that would come that have a set of views, we would want to know that our government is welcoming, not endorsing, not saying this is what we believe, this is who we are as a city. And I don't think I heard that as much as I heard she's welcomed, and we know she's coming. The powers that be know she's here, and we want to at least be welcoming to her. Okay. That's what I thought. That's what I would think we were conveying.
Okay. Because part of the messages that she has is just the mischaracterization of the gay community. So does that reflect, how does that reflect on our community if she's saying certain things, but we're welcoming everybody?
I think the beauty about us welcoming her is that everybody is entitled to their beliefs. Now, the practice of that belief is different, right? There are some people that do things that I may not necessarily agree with or condone, but it doesn't mean I have the right to mistreat them, to harm them, or to hurt them. And by she coming as a pastor, she was sharing views that are held within Scripture that were uplifting, encouraging in that night, and giving this group, because also what people have not highlighted about this event, it was a registration-only event. It was not open to the public. It was registration only. There was a link. You had to register to be at the event. We were very intentional so that we knew that the people who were coming understood who she was, could appreciate it, and it was not broadcasted, quote unquote, in public groups. It was just put on a personal page.
Okay.
Everything was intentional to make sure that there was a select group of people to hear her.
Okay, so that's what Pemberton put up was, this is going to happen. If you want to come, register so you're able to come as well. So it's like a public invitation, but we need to know who's going to be
and
here.
And your registration was subject to approval.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, that was the whole goal, because I know there are some people that aren't fans of the presentation, but I knew that there were people that love it, and so we wanted to make sure that she had a great experience, that we had a great experience, and that people would be blessed by the fact that even though she was not here in that capacity as the faith office director, she was there on her personal capacity as a pastor, that we did have one of the highest ranking individuals connected to our federal government who just so happened to be coming through our city. And that was meaningful, I think, because now Port Huron is on the map for being welcoming to people of such a high rank.
What about welcoming to other viewpoints that aren't aligned with everyone, that might be polarizing?
You know what's amazing about that is that I just learned this. That I was talking to her executive director that was with her,
Okay.
and she had a quote that said, "If you serve or worship at the Church of Unicorn, her work professionally requires her to protect that freedom to have that belief and to have that practice." And that's what she's doing with Buddhists in China in different spaces, so that people, you can't endorse what they do, but they have the right to do it, and they should be safe in doing that.
Yes.
And so that's the work of what that office does.
Because and she brought this up during her sermon, is the separation of church and state, which absolutely, that the government should not be able to impede on the religion aspect in anyone's religious
Or
freedom.
endorse it.
Or endorse it. It's separate.
Absolutely.
As well as the other side of it.
Mhm.
So how does that come in together with local government if Pemberton or anyone in government capacity, including the president, if there's a separation, how can we marry those two together but still respect both sides?
One of the challenges I think we have here is the capacity in which they shared their comments, which was welcoming. I as a pastor, I know how there are different views against the LGBTQ community, but regardless, I've given housing to them. I have helped feed them. I have supported. I've stood with and done all that I could. I consider myself a welcoming individual. I don't have to run around with a flag for any group,
Yeah.
but I can be a decent human being. And so I saw it as a version of them being decent to say, we welcome you. You are welcome here. Don't break any laws. Don't hurt anybody. Don't harm anybody. And that should be okay.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. We should be able to welcome anyone. Where do you feel it is with the gender affirming care and any sort of transgender surgeries for minors?
Okay, where do I feel about that?
Where do you
What do I
feel
mean
like
by-
is that true? Is that possible? Because that's the one thing that I'm not able to find evidence of anyone, especially under the age of 18, getting any sort of permanent surgeries for gender affirming care.
Well, my personal viewpoint on that is that I believe that everybody has the right to experience and to exist and to live and to be safe, right?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to making a change or a transition like that, I believe that's something that should be done with much meditation, much prayer.
Yes.
But I am very careful with giving that type of, how can I say, freedom without me fully even understanding that journey. I don't believe I'm even qualified to speak on it because it's not my journey, right?
Right.
Like, and I think that's one of the biggest, because I look at it and I see how both sides have struggled and gone through what have you, but I don't believe that I'm even qualified because it's not an area of my journey that I'm into. But I do believe that everybody should be safe.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. They should be safe. And we can.
Does that make sense?
peacefully-
Was
yeah,
that clear?
Yeah, because you haven't been in that pathway. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think if I just give you my viewpoints, I know the scripture is very, very clear. I don't believe God made any mistakes. I do
Right.
not at all. But I had friends who have transitioned and detransitioned.
Okay.
And what bothers me is that the church abandoned them in the process.
That
No.
is not okay.
No,
True.
they should be safe to go through their journey, because we have liars who start off lying and then lie a lot and then lie even more, but we give them a space. But we should give them the same space to go through their journey and then continue to show them the way of righteousness through that process.
Right. Because my thing is that it since we can't find any receipts that anyone's getting mutilated at the ages of 4 and 5 years old, how is that? That's not speaking truth. Because I agree, we should be able to let people do their journey, leave people alone if they want to transition or not, or if you're against it, none of that, do you. But for her to say that we're mutilating children, which can be a buzzword, it could also be so-called cochlear implants for deaf people. That could be seen as mutilation as well.
I
But
think.
we're not doing any of those things to minors.
Well, I think also too, I
Yeah.
look at individuals like in her position where she has more access to information than I do.
Okay.
But I do remember growing up in Atlanta, and I remember one of my mentors talking about gender mutilation and something. There was a whole term to it. I can't remember the whole term, but I remember it occurring even in Atlanta. because I lived there for a while and I lived in Miami. And so there have been cases that I'm personally privy to it happening. And so every sector of society won't be perfect in their attempts to help. But I think what we have to do is do our best to live righteously.
Yeah.
And to be helpful for people during their journey, because again, the individual who wakes up today and feels like they don't need this, then they can wake up tomorrow and feel like they need that. And we need to give them a safe space to be educated, decide, and then also give them love and prayer during that process.
What do you think, and what are your hopes now that she's been here? What are your wishes for the future for our community? What do you hope happens in the future? Any goals, dreams, aspirations?
That we could do more of this, that we could actually talk. One of the saddest things that happened to me is when I went to that city council meeting just to kind of thank a few people and give them updates, is that people start talking about how this was horrible for that community, horrible for that community. Well, then let's figure out how we can make it better for everybody. What's the best way? How can we communicate? How can we talk? How can we support one another? Let's have that happen. Having Pastor Paula White here as a preacher was amazing. It was a goal as a leader, especially with a church like ours, but also to know that there are relationships that could bring benefit to our community. She now knows where we are. What else could happen now that the government sees this, even unofficially, right? She's been here. She knows the city. It could be in her mind, right?
She can pronounce it now.
Yes, it could come up on a conversation, and that's amazingly meaningful. She gave us information to some of the leaders that were in the back room that we wouldn't have had any other time. And so it was just great that as a pastor, she was here. She was able to share. She was able to encourage us. But then also she let us know that there's great work going on beyond the scenes. So hopefully we can do some great things together and continue to encourage others to do great things in this community. Hopefully the LGBTQ community and the pagan community, all those other groups that we're talking, can bring some of their all-stars and the people that they really care, and maybe find ways of bringing the community some more positive light.
So you want to continue the conversation?
I would love it.
What can people do to be able to continue the conversation with you?
They can come find me. I'm not hard to find. I'm here for I've been here for 11 years, and I'm always open for conversation. And this is always a safe space to figure out your way, because again, we all start somewhere. You think about where you were 10 years ago. Are you in that same space? No. But we keep growing, and pastors are supposed to be that safe space to give you all the information, all the hope, all the empowerment, so you can become what God intended for you to be.
Okay. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I hope this was helpful, and I hope that the community hears me, and I hope that people understand that we are grateful for Pastor Paula White coming, but I'm even more grateful now that it started a conversation, and I hope we don't go deaf and stop talking.
Okay.
And we keep building together.
All right. I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.